a passion project of mine that we've been developing here that we call the Success Series. And so our goal with the Success Series is really to figure out how can we improve upon learning via training. I'm sure we've all been to various training experiences, some good, some bad. And the reality is, especially if you're going to that big, long, full-day training experience, that you're not very likely to remember all that. In fact, within 24 hours, we tend to forget about 70% of what happened to us in that new knowledge that we might have picked up in a full-day training experience. And within a week, 90% of it's gone. So that was one of the problems that we wanted to try to solve here. And the other problem, just working in the industry for a long time, that I came across often was how much time people were able to really dedicate for training. And so the goal with the Success Series is to try to really minimize how much time you spend out of work and really extend the learning process over a longer timeline, with the hopes that it'll be a little bit more impactful. And so, you're all joining us here for this launch of the Success Series, and it's really something that we're trying to get feedback on. So, of course, first and foremost, we want to make sure that this class and the content is valuable to you, and that overall it's a positive experience and that you learned something and there was behavior change. But we also are interested just generally in the format. So over the course of the next 6 weeks, and I'll kind of share what's going to happen in a moment, but we really want to understand at the end of it, is this a good format for learning? Is it better or preferable to just straight up full day or half day class or an online course, because there's going to be a blend of a few different experiences for you. We're trying to really come at this from both a knowledge delivery, content delivery, which is what we'll do a lot today, but also some reinforcement and kind of try it on your own exercises in the wild. And then finally, a reflection to figure out, what did you take away from this experience? So to that end, most of you, if not all, I believe, got through that self-assessment. That was just sort of to help you think about, orient yourself around the topics, and then B, to give me as the instructor just a general readout on who I'm dealing with, what your experience and background is, maybe some of the challenges that you face. One of the things that I noticed pretty consistently, the first half, people scored very highly on, or rated themselves very highly. And a lot of that was, high level stuff. Am I motivated? How motivated is my team? And then when we started getting into the more structural, organizational, cultural stuff towards the bottom, that was a bit of a mixed bag. So that was helpful for me to figure out. But the good news is you're already done with the first week. Hopefully it was relatively painless. We're really trying to keep it to no more than 2 hours per week that you would engage with this stuff. Sometimes less, obviously, in that assessment there. If that hopefully took you about 10 minutes today, for sure we'll be here for 2 hours. So we'll follow that assessment up with this class. And then the third week, which we'll kind of introduce at the end of today's session, you're going to begin some self-guided practice. Specifically, there is a motivation plan that we're hoping that you and your direct reports, if you're a manager, or if you're not a manager, maybe a peer, can work on together. So we're kind of asking you to take some of the concepts that we're going to learn today and try it out over the next week with at least one person. If you want to do more than that, be my guest. I think the more the merrier. But we'll talk about that towards the end of the course today in terms of what that looks like. Week after next, we're going to come back together and set up some times to do some coaching sessions. So we'll kind of see how that self-guided practice, that discussion with your direct report or whomever you chose went, get some feedback from myself and some ideas on where you might go next, and then incorporate that into the next week's practice. And throughout all of this, we'll kind of be sending you reminder emails, little nudges, things to try. So it's not just going to be you out there on your own. We really want this to feel like it's a guided experience, and that you have feedback from myself, but also that it's not so cumbersome that you can't actually do your work, or to take care of things that take priority. So I'll give you all my email at the end as well, and you can reach out to me directly at any points over the next few weeks if you have any questions. And then the last week is a final reflection. It's going to be, maybe 2-3 pages of just, what was the experience like? What were some ideas that stood out to you? What worked? What didn't work? What questions do you still have? And then once you complete all of that, we'll give you a nice, pretty certificate, and you'll be on your way. So that's the structure of all this. It is a blend of a classroom experience, or virtual classroom in this case, like we have today, and then some exercises that we again encourage you to go out into the wild and take on, but all with a mind for not trying to overwhelm you with too much, and then ultimately getting you to reflect on what the experience is like. So yeah, like I said, at the end we'll want to know, of course, was this actual course in the content and exercises, were those things helpful? But then also overall, do you see this as a useful structure for training and learning? Because I think the way that we see this is, that if we can get the structure down well enough, then we can really input any sort of content that we like or that you like. So today's course is culture, motivation, and performance, and that's what we're going to be spending our time on today. It's been built because we have a broad audience here, just to be very kind of out of the box, consumable by the public, but we also envision this being utilized in things that are a little more specialized to unique environments. So we can also custom build things and really tailor the experience to your workplace environment and culture. So for us, the sort of learning arc that we're going to follow over these next few weeks, how does motivation work? That's something that we're going to talk about at a very foundational level. There's all kinds of research in the fields of psychology and social sciences in general about motivation, but we'll talk about some foundational topics today in that area, and then ask you to go out and try it. And then we'll start thinking more about culture. What is your team culture like? How can you improve it? And then ultimately, what did you learn over these 6 weeks? The goals for our 6 weeks, ideally, you'll have a foundational understanding of what motivates people, and then take that foundational understanding and start to get real insights into what motivates people that you work with specifically. And similarly, we'll talk about some foundational understandings of culture and in both an organizational setting, broadly, and then maybe more specifically in your team. And then all of those insights we want to help you bring together to improve motivation and team culture. So that's the plan. So before we get started, does anybody have any questions? You can turn on your mic if you like. You can throw them in the chat.